was trying to figure out how I wanted to do this, and I could not figure it out. And so I just decided that I would read through the chapter, and I would explain what I do as I read through it. So how I Bible journal is I first read through a chapter, and I highlight the verses that are sticking out to me as I go. So I guess I'll start there. So we're in Proverbs 20, and it starts, diverse weights and diverse measures, both of them are alike abomination to the Lord. Even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure or whether it be right. The hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord hath made both of them. So this one is interesting. Okay. Love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou be satisfied with bread. This one is also interesting. And I guess I ran out of all of the if I have too many and the colors I start reusing colors, sometimes what I'll do is I'll kind of categorize them. So this one's talking about not loving sleep and being a sluggard. And this one's also talking about being a sluggard. So I made them both blue so I could talk about both of them at the same time, if that makes any sense. It is not, saith the buyer, but when he is gone his way, then he boasteth. There is gold and a multitude of rubies, but the lips of knowledge are a precious jewel. Take his garment that is surety for a stranger, and take a pledge of him for a strange woman. Bread of deceit is sweet to man, but afterwards his mouth shall be filled with gravel. Interesting. Okay. Every purpose is established by counsel, and with good advice make war. He that goeth about as a talebearer revealeth secrets. Therefore meddle not with him that flattereth with lips. Whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness. An inheritance may be gotten hastily at the beginning, but at the end thereof shall not be blessed. Now, I don't know if this one reminded you of another Bible story, but this one reminded me of one, and you probably know where I'm going with this, but whatever. We'll talk about it later. Say not thou, I will recompense evil, but wait on the Lord, and he shall save thee. Diverse weights are an abomination unto God, and a false balance is not good. So this is the second time something like that has been mentioned, and I always think that it's really, really important to pay attention to things that are mentioned more than once. Okay. So man's going are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? And that one is kind of like the other one where it says, who can say I have made my heart pure or my heart clean? It's not the exact same, but my brain instantly connects those, so that's what I try to do. Okay, it starts here. Okay. It is a snare to the man who devoureth that which is holy after vows to make inquiry. A wise man scattereth the wicked and bringeth the wheel over them. The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all inward parts of the belly. Mercy and truth preserve the king, and his throne is upheld by mercy. The glory of young men is their strength. The beauty of old men is their gray head. The blueness of wound cleanses away evil. So do stripes the inward part of the belly. So now we're at the actual journaling part. So we already have our verses highlighted if you're actually following what I'm doing. And so you don't always write about every single verse you highlight. I think that sometimes we highlight verses that we're interested in, but we don't really have a lot to say about it yet. I think different seasons give you different perspectives. And so you might not always have something to say about something you highlight, and that's perfectly fine. So we'll just go through our highlighted verses. Sometimes I am a fan of, like I said earlier, categorizing them and talking about ones that are similar at the same time. That was the air kicking on. But other times I just want to go one by one. And so with this one, it's kind of easier to do a categorical journaling because there are multiple verses, like the diverse weights one, that are very similar, and so they are easier to just rope together. So I guess I'll start with verse 4 because that's the first one I highlighted, but verse 4 kind of reminds me of verse 13. So this one I will group together. And this is the part where it becomes more personal. Recently, I've been realizing that I sleep nonstop all the time. And I started realizing that I'm basically just wasting my life by sleeping. You may not feel the same way, because there are a lot of people who sleep until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're perfectly fine with that. And that's okay. But recently, I've been realizing that if I sleep too much, then I wake up and I don't really do anything, and I'm wasting all the time I could have. If I had woken up earlier, I could have read, I could have prayed, I could have done all these things, but I decided to sleep instead. And so this one, to me, is personally like a call out to me, because that's what I've been feeling recently. Like, love not sleep, because I keep sleeping so late that I don't have the time that I could have if I had woken up earlier. So this one may not apply to you if you don't feel that way right now, which is perfectly fine. So I would put this into words, and this is where you're going to realize that I'm kind of not good with words sometimes, even though it may seem like it. But so it says, the sluggard will not plow in his season of cold, therefore shall he beg and harvest and have nothing. And then the next one says, love not sleep, lest thou come in poverty. Open thine eyes and be satisfied with bread. And so my point here would be, recently, I also have trash handwriting, so just ignore that. I have been feeling like I am putting sleep ahead of my time with God. These verses are I don't think I have enough room to that word. Reminders. Oh, there we go. That works. Reminders that he comes above all. All. Even my precious sleep. I'm trying to like look through my iPad and then also look through here, and so it kind of like just went that way, but it's okay. Everything's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. So then I'll highlight this so that I'll know I'm talking about the blue verses. Which is another thing. There are a lot of people who don't highlight at all, which is also perfectly fine. You don't have to journal the same way I do. I like highlighting things because if I look at this, I instantly know this is connected to these two, and I don't have to read through what I wrote and read through these and figure out, oh, it goes with that one. And I think I'm putting my hands way too much in this. I'm sorry. It's a habit. Okay, so most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find. Now this isn't something that I journal right now because it's not something that I have a super cool perspective on. But I recently heard someone say something about how people who are actually good people don't like go around boasting that they're great people. That's what self-righteous people do. And I was like, and so that verse just reminded me of that one, and I don't really want to journal about it right now because I think that like. Okay, so my iPad died, and I decided just to use my phone and finish this up. This has been a really not as good as I was expecting it to be video, and so I'm giving you an offer. So I don't know if you've noticed, but like if you can see here, I hope I can get this. Yeah. So I have this much journaling. If I wrote bigger, it could be like this big, and I could be like one of those cool people who fill up their entire Bible, pages because they write so big that, you know. But I like writing smaller because I like fitting as much as I possibly can in my pages. So I often will see something that I want to write about, but I don't want to write about it right now because I don't want to take up space that I could have written about this verse later on and had something even better to say about it, but I can't because now it's all gone and I have to do add-ins and use index cards, and that's just a lot of work. So anyways, so then we get to this verse. It says, who can say I have made my heart clean? I am pure from my sin? And I think I related this verse to this verse. The man's going, which is 24. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? And I kind of related it because there's a lot of verses talking about how That was my tape falling. There are a lot of verses that talk about how you can't fix yourself. You can't fix your sin. And so there are a lot of times we'll either excuse our sin, or we'll act like we did it all ourselves and we fixed it and we're fine and we're moving on, even though we really haven't. And so in this one, I like to think about the verse that says, created me a new heart and a new spirit, which is in Psalms, not in Proverbs. So this one reminds me of that one, and this one's the man's going are of the Lord. It's like the Lord, the footsteps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, like that kind of verse. So they both remind me of different verses. So what I normally do is when they remind me of different verses, I make sure I have the right verse so I don't look stupid. And I write down the verses it reminds me of. Okay. The footsteps. I'm using my iPad because it finally is not dead, but it's on 3%, so I can't really use it. The footsteps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. Okay. So this would be Psalm 37:23 exactly. So that's what I would do. I would say, man's going are of the Lord. How can a man understand it? I put PS for Psalm 37:23. 37:23. I make that one so it's very obvious I'm talking about that one. And this one reminds me of creating me a clean heart. So I'd look up that verse and make sure I don't mix everything up, because sometimes I'm really bad about mixing up the chapter and the verses. And so like this one, I probably would have said 23:37 or 27:33. I'm bad about that. Create in me a clean heart. I cannot type. That one would be, that's a song, I guess. 51:10. So it would be Psalms 51:10. So I would write that at the top, just like the other one, 51:10. Okay, there we go. Oh, it was lightning. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell, I kind of have a theme of what I do. So what I like to do is I like to apply the verses that I'm reading to that's why it's supposed to sing up, to other parts of the Bible, to my life, to different seasons of life. I like to apply it to other people's lives. Like maybe I'm not going through this, but someone else might be, and this would be a really good verse for them. And so just different things like that. I kind of have things that I look for. I don't really have there are a lot of people who have a little key, and so like green means God, and yellow means commands, and purple means, I don't know, something else. And I used to do that, but I used to do it with the words. So like I'd highlight the word goodness, I'd highlight the word Lord, and any other title of God. I'd highlight blue would be women of the Bible, which I still do, but I don't really do as much of the other ones anymore. So I had like this long list. I don't know, I've made a post about it before. I had this long list of words that I looked for and I highlighted, but I got so caught up in looking for those words and highlighting that I kind of just got too focused on that I wasn't even really paying attention to what I was reading anymore, and so I stopped doing that for the most part. I mean, I still do, this year my word of the year or phrase, I guess, is boldness, to like be bold, so it's yellow. And I still highlight things about women in blue, but it's a lot easier because I don't have a long list of like 20 different words that I need to look for. So it works for a lot of people, which is something I would suggest if you can do it. If you're really good about being able to focus on little tiny things and still understanding the entire chapter that you're trying to read. Is this crooked? The entire chapter that you're going to read, I would suggest that because it's really fun. But if you're like me and you get really distracted very easily, it's probably not the best idea. Okay, so here's the verses that relate to each other. So we're talking about diverse weights and diverse measures. Diverse weights are weights that have been tampered with. And so an example would be like if you go into a store and you're trying to buy, apples. Okay, and so they're weighing the apples to see how much they weigh. So they would tamper with it so that you wouldn't get as many apples that are in a pound as there really is in a pound. So you'd have a pound of apples, but really it's like half a pound of apples, but they're charging you for a pound of apples. And so the point of this is that God wanted the Israelites to do business fairly, and not to use the tampered with weights because that cheats the consumer out of money and goods, and that is not something that, you know, God stands for. He doesn't stand for cheating people out of their goods and their money. So it's really unethical to do. So he was warning them, like, this is an abomination to me. I don't like this, so please don't participate in this. We were discussing the diverse weights, and now we're moving on to this one. I have already written something down for that one because I forgot I wasn't recording when I did. But it says, even a child is known by his doings, whether his work be pure and whether it be right. Now, this verse reminds me of something that my band teacher said. Not everyone will agree with it, and that's fine. You can just ignore this part and skip it if you don't like it. But my band teacher was fond of saying something along the lines of, if you don't believe in drinking alcohol and you go to a store that predominantly sells alcohol and you go in to get a soda, but you come out and you have a bag and it's not really showing that you bought the soda, but you come out of a store that sells alcohol and you're having a soda, but no one can tell that you have a soda, that it will let your good be spoken evil of. So, like, you didn't you didn't buy alcohol, but you did go into a store that sells alcohol, and even though, yes, people shouldn't just automatically make assumptions of you, we are humans, and that's what we do. We're the best at jumping to conclusions, and so people are going to jump to the conclusion that you bought alcohol and you are now going to drink it. So we have to be purposeful in what we're doing, because if we say we don't, if you're one of those people who say that you don't drink alcohol and you don't like alcohol, and you go to a store and you buy something from a store that is known for selling alcohol, it can make people think that you're a hypocrite. So you really have to watch what you're doing so that it doesn't look like you're a hypocrite, which some people say that people should not judge and jump to conclusions, which I agree with. I don't think we should jump to conclusions. We should always talk to the person before we start. We shouldn't even say anything that we see about other people to other people. But either way, you should just talk to the person before you say anything. You shouldn't say anything in general. But people are people, and that happens, so we have to be very purposeful about what we're doing and making sure that if we are doing something, our good can't be spoken evil of. And so I wrote that right here. That was my band teacher's favorite soapbox. I just love that one so much. So the next one is, the bread of deceit is sweet to man, but afterwards his mouth shall be filled with gravel. This one, I just wanted to do more research on. It sounded very interesting, like the phrases and the wording. I feel like there's probably some significance to it. And if I did that, we would have a really, really long study. But I'd probably start looking at, like, the meanings of the words, which you can do on Bible Hub. Like, if you pull up a verse, it'll tell you, like, if you're reading whichever language, like in the New Testament or the Old Testament, whichever one you're reading, it will tell you the original language, what the word means and what the word is and all that stuff. So depending on if you're reading the New Testament or Old Testament, it'll tell you whichever one it is written in. Inheritance may be gotten hastily at the beginning, but the end thereof shall not be blessed. And I highlighted this one, and I said earlier that you might be able to know what I'm saying and where I'm going with this one. But this one reminded me of the story of the prodigal son. And so we're going to look up the verses again because we don't want to write down the wrong verses. It would be Luke 15:11 through 32. And this would be where I actually reread. Oh, am I moving this? Okay. This is what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. This is where I would actually reread the prodigal son, but to save time, because I feel like this could be a very long video and you might not like that, I will skip that part. But that was where I would start reading other verses that I link it to. But yeah, this is what I mean by, like, I like going through, finding things that relate to other parts of the Bible, relate to a certain part of my life, what I'm going through right now, what I could be going through in the future. It relates to, oh, it's already 4 minutes. Man, I'm taking forever. It relates to other people and what other people could be going through and how they can get through what they're going through, what I have gone through, and what could help other people who might be going through similar things. And that's kind of what I like doing. That probably makes no sense. I'm really bad at explaining things. But yeah, so that's the last verse that I highlighted. Anyways, but if you notice, like I said earlier, I did not write anything about this one. I didn't really write anything about this one, but that was an accident. I was supposed to, but I didn't. But yeah, so with these two, I guess I'll just explain it because this is going to be way over 10 minutes, and my goal was 10 minutes, so you guys wouldn't get really bored with me. What I would do with these two is I would look up more about these type of weights specifically, because there's the word has meaning. This phrase is very meaningful. Like I said with this one. I said this one, I would look it up because it just sounds like there's more meaning to it than it just appears to be. And so, like I said, God just didn't want them to deal unequally with people and to cheat them out of products and money. So I would look up, there's probably like other laws like this in like Leviticus or Deuteronomy or something like that I would look up and see if there's a part of the law that lines up with that one, and I'd do what I did with this one, just right up here. I mean, yeah, this is kind of messy and it's crazy. It was storming this morning and I woke up determined to make this video, and I was like, I'm doing it today because I have a funny video that's supposed to go up on Wednesday that you guys might think is cute, and I didn't want to like put that one up and not put this one up because it's not fair, because that's what I told you I would make. Yeah, that was my boyfriend texting me, sorry. But yeah, this one's kind of messy, so I promise I will make another one in Ephesians 5. The problem with Ephesians is I have lots of notes in it. So I'll probably do this one in my other Bible, because I have another Bible where I probably didn't write as much in this because it was when I was just starting out with Bible journaling and I was a baby and I didn't really know what I was doing. But yeah, I guess for a summary, I'll just explain my thought processes whenever I'm Bible journaling. I'm sorry, I can't really see the camera, and so I feel like it's been ugly this whole time, and you guys are probably aggravated. So what I like to do is, I guess I can just write it out. I like to, 1, relate verses to other parts of Bible. Like I said with the prodigal son story, after I do that, I'll read the context it's in. So like I'll read maybe 5 or 10 verses below and 5 or 10 verses above. So I'll relate the verses to other parts of the Bible. Then I'll relate to my life. Then I'll relate to others' lives. I'm just going to stop writing relate at this point. Is that how you do that? Lives. And then I would relate it to specific seasons of life. I guess this video could have just been summed up in this. Like, I guess I'll put a timestamp if you don't want to watch the whole video. And I also kind of like to look for themes, if that makes any sense. Like I did with the weights. Oh, look for, not it. For themes. So like I like to see that, like in here, I was talking about the weights. There were like 2 verses on the weights. Oh, we're in Proverbs. What am I doing? Okay. Right here. Okay. See, like in this, it was talking about being a sluggard, which I linked together. I like to find themes. Diverse weights and inheritance, that was one. And then the man's doing and the clean heart, which I linked together. You may not link oh, I'm doing it again. I link these together, but you may not link these together. It really just depends on what you're thinking. My thought process is kind of crazy and it's really hard to follow, so if you hate this video, I'm sorry. It's just a problem. It happens. But yes, I will make the Ephesians 5 video, and I promise I will actually have a real setup and not a stack of books, because I had an idea and I was going to do it at church, and then I got distracted, and then I forgot every single time I went to church because I got distracted. But there's a really cool clear podium type thing that you can put a phone in front of, and it's really easy to just write underneath it, so it'll be a lot better, I promise. But thanks for watching this. If you want any other videos, just let me know. I'm kind of awkward. I don't know if you can tell, but like this was really weird for me to do, but I will do it if you want me to. And I Like, I could do Ephesians 5. I could do other verses. I could do different types of videos, like maybe not the read through. If you really just want like journaling and no reading and no anything else, I can do that too. But thank you. So I have a stack of books, and then I have my iPad just mounted up somehow. I don't even know how I did it, but it works.